Urban legends that turned out to be true. Let's go.
West Hobart Haunted House. West Hobart is an inner-city suburb located in Tasmania, Australia. Over the years, dozens of allegations of supposed hauntings, ghost apparitions, and other paranormal activity have been made by tourists and residents of West Hobart. And it's honestly not too hard to see why, as West Hobart is a pretty old town with a generally creepy vibe. As is usually the case, most of these stories have either turned out to be fake or the people making the allegations didn't have enough evidence to support their claims, which makes it almost entirely likely that they're hoaxes. But as it turns out, at least one of these stories actually has some amount of truth to it. Back in the late 80s and mid 90s, rumors started spreading of a house in West Hobart that was apparently so haunted it drove its residents insane. At first, the rumors created a huge buzz all over town, with the locals doing everything possible to stay far away from the alleged haunted house. It wasn't until months later that the authorities got involved and finally got a clear picture of the situation. While it was true that the house's residents appeared to be going insane, it didn't have anything to do with paranormal activity, but with the fact that a datura vine had been growing through the trees directly above the home and dropping leaves into the family's rainwater tank. For a long time, the family had been inadvertently consuming microdoses of the plant every single day, which made them slowly but surely start to lose their sanity as they sank further and further into delirium. In case you've never heard of it, datura is a species of plant within the nightshade family, also known as Jimson weed, the devil's weed, or devil's trumpet, and you'll see why in a second. Even though the plant itself looks pretty harmless, it's known for having extremely powerful hallucinogenic properties, which is why it was used for centuries by Native American tribes in coming-of-age rituals and other important ceremonies. The Aztecs also used datura as a painkiller in certain rituals, namely in ritual sacrifices, and it's also commonly used as an ingredient in the ritual of zombification in the Haitian voodoo religion, where it's referred to as the devil's cucumber. As you can probably tell by now, a datura
The fuck? Does this plant just like cure cancer? I feel like this plant is like doing everything else that no other plant can do. There's so many flowers out there that it's just like, yeah, this flower just exists. And he does nothing. But this flower, it can zombify, it can freaking make people delirium, it can do all these things. What the heck?
isn't your typical recreative hallucinogen, and there's a reason why it's really only ever used in hardcore spiritual rituals and ceremonies, and sometimes by naive people who have no idea what they're getting themselves into. In low to medium doses, datura causes extremely distressing, delirious experiences, and in higher doses it can lead to paralysis and even death. Nowadays, datura is recognized by most tribes as a highly toxic and dangerous plant, and have understandably stopped using it.
Oh, really? The plant that can paralyze and kill people is toxic, and maybe you shouldn't use that. I would have guessed that from the very beginning. That's just me though. That's just me. I would have been like, guys, this plant paralyzed, Rick over there. I don't know if we should be using it. I don't know. And I don't oh, he just died. Oh, I don't know if this is a good plant or not. I don't really, yeah.
Before we move on, I wanted to take a minute to talk about War Thunder, the sponsor of
Oh
this
my
video.
god, War
As of recently,
Thunder.
I've had a growing interest in history, specifically
So
World
long. All right.
Cropsey. If you were to somehow go back to the 70s and spend some time in Staten Island, it probably wouldn't take you long to hear about an urban legend of a man named Cropsey. As the story went, Cropsey was a serial kidnapper and killer who lost his son and resorted to stealing other people's children to deal with his grief. According to the legend, Cropsey also had a hook for a hand, scars, burns, and open wounds covering his entire face and body, and a generally horrifying appearance.
You're literally just describing Freddy Krueger without the hook. Freddy Krueger is a guy who kills kids and he has knives for fingers and he's burnt up. You literally just described it. Is this what Freddy Krueger is based off of? I don't know. I should look into that though. I love Freddy Krueger. He's probably like my favorite guy. So.
Considering the mass areas of uninhabited woodlands, it's not all that unexpected that a tale like the legend of Cropsey would make it into the mainstream culture at some point. Unfortunately, this wasn't just a tall tale made up by Staten Island parents to keep their kids from venturing too far into the woods and getting lost. Although the legend has some obviously made-up elements, such as the hooked hand and the horrifying scars and burns, at some point in the early 70s, children in Staten Island really did start disappearing. That's when the line between legend and reality started to blur, and the story of the real Cropsey immediately replaced the urban legend. This is the real story. Andre Rand was a man from Manhattan who was born in 1944 and moved to Staten Island in the late 60s. After working for 2 years at the infamously brutal Willowbrook State School for Children with Disabilities, Rand was arrested in 1969 and served over a year in prison for the attempted attack of a 9-year-old girl. As soon as he was released 16 months later, reports started cropping up of more little girls disappearing all over Staten Island, including 5-year-old Alice Pereira, who was playing in her building's lobby when she suddenly disappeared without a trace. Over the next decade, Rand was the prime suspect in the disappearances and deaths of several other young girls in the area. But it wasn't until 1983 when he picked up a...
That does not look like a normal girl. That looks like a demon child. Missing person, please help find. I'm not helping find this person. This is a demon. She has no eyeballs. $5,000? This is black and white, so this is probably like the 70s to like 50s. That's like probably like 20 grand now. What the heck? I'm not, I mean, 20 grand, a lot. Don't get me wrong. But definitely not to find this demon child. Oh my god.
11 kids from a local YMCA and brought them fast food before taking them to the airport that he was finally arrested and sentenced to 10 months in prison again. Throughout the 70s and 80s, dozens of young kids disappeared in Staten Island, and although Rand was often the last person to be seen with them, there was ultimately never enough evidence to put him away for a long time. For many years, he would often be seen hanging around young kids, going on walks with them, and even taking them to lunch and dinner with him at local restaurants. After years of letting him...
Dude, if this keeps happening and it's the same guy, why don't they just, like, I don't know, lock him up forever, put him in a mental institution? Why are we just letting him loose? We're just like, oh, he just does that. He just hangs out with little kids all the time. I don't know what's wrong with that. He just does that. He just hangs out with kids. There's nothing wrong with that. As he's buying lunch for 9-year-olds. Yeah, that's a little weird. I'm just gonna put that out there. I think it's a little weird.
Walk the streets as a free man, police would finally have a breakthrough in the case in 1987 when they found undeniable evidence that Rand had been behind the disappearance and murder of Jennifer Schweiger, a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome.
I take back my last comment. I thought that was just a random picture. But no, that was a real person who has Down syndrome, and I called them a demon child. I'm sorry about that. I did not know that was gonna happen like that. So sorry. How was I supposed to know?
In 1988, he was sentenced to 25 years to life. And
Good.
while he was behind bars, more and more evidence was found that tied him to several other disappearances in Staten Island in the 70s and 80s. Unfortunately, he was only charged with one additional major crime in 2004, which was the kidnapping of Holly Ann Hughes, thanks to which he will spend the next 13 years behind bars until 2037.
Good.
If he lives that
Oh,
long...
frick, that's in 2 years. I swear, if he gets out in 2 years and then there's just more disappearances, I'm going to be like, someone needs to kill this man. He needs to disappear from the face of the earth. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing? These are children that are disappearing. They are most likely dead. Kill this man. Oh my god. Like, how hard is that? Don't mess with kids. All right, just don't do that.
He'll be 93 by the time he gets out.
Okay, he'll probably be dead. Unless he's still alive.
The Maine Hermit.
Then maybe.
The Kennebec Valley is one of the most beautiful regions in Maine, with over 5,000 square miles of forests, rolling hills, and natural paradise surrounding the Kennebec River. Many cabin owners of the North Pond area in the Kennebec Valley have described the area as the most peaceful place on Earth. But it hasn't always been that way. All throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, there were reports of over 1,000 break-ins in the North Pond cabins. For decades, nobody knew who was responsible for the thefts, especially since they were always carried out when there was no one home. As the cabin owners soon noticed, the break-ins seemed to follow a pattern, always peaking in the days before Memorial Day and after Labor Day. As for the stolen items themselves, they ranged from food, to cooking utensils, to books, to propane tanks, to toiletries of all kinds. In the absence of a concrete suspect, the locals eventually named the thief the North Pond Hermit, even though by this point there was nothing to suggest.
This guy sounds pretty chill. He just seems like he's just going around and he's like, I need some toilet paper. Let me just yoink that. You know, it doesn't seem like he's stealing everything. It just seems like he's stealing stuff he needs. You know? If it was like, oh yeah, they would steal every single thing in your home. Okay. But he's just stealing like one or two things. And it's not even like that bad. It's like, oh yeah, he steals a water bottle here. He steals that, you know, like he seems like a pretty chill guy. I don't know. If I had a robber and he came in and he was like, hey, I'm not trying to steal everything. I just need some stuff. I'd be like, you know what? You could probably have it. Actually, probably not. I'd probably just shoot him. I'd be like, what are you doing in my house? Get out. I would not be nice to a robber if he came into my house. But I'm just saying, if he's a chill guy like that, it's pretty dope.
Yes, the break-ins were being carried out by a single person. Although it wasn't uncommon for groups of homeowners to venture out into the woods to try to find the North Pond Hermit, they never found a trace, which only added to the legend's mystery. One afternoon in 2002, 100 people attended a North Pond homeowners meeting, and when someone asked how many of them had suffered break-ins, almost all of them raised their hands.
What?
As you can probably guess, the North Pond Hermit quickly turned into somewhat of a boogeyman, with the legend frequently being shared over campfires in the area. For years, nobody thought that the person or people behind the break-ins would ever be found. But in April 2013, a man named Christopher Thomas Knight was arrested in the middle of the woods in the North Pond area by an officer who had made it his sole mission to bring the thief to justice. As soon as he was brought to the police station, the cops asked him why he wasn't answering any of their questions. At first, it seemed as though he was having trouble speaking, but eventually he responded that he was ashamed of himself. As it was later revealed, Christopher had been living out in the middle of the woods by himself in an unheated nylon tent, surviving only on the things he stole from nearby North Pond cabins. Shockingly, he had survived winter temperatures of 20 degrees below zero for years and hadn't been to a doctor.
Dude, I hate the cold. I could not do that. You cannot pay me enough money to just sit in a tent with a propane tank and be like, yeah, just sit there and just hang out all winter and try to survive. Are you serious? He hung out in a tent in negative 20-degree weather with just some propane that he stole, bruh. I don't know. This guy still seems kind of chill, though. He only stole what he needed. He didn't, like, steal a lot. I mean, he probably stole a lot over the course of time, but, like, seems like a chill guy.
Or taken any medicine for 3 decades. What's most incredible about the hermit's story is that for the entire time he lived in the woods, he didn't have a single conversation with another human being, except for one time when he ran into a hiker and only said hi. Understandably, Chris had lost interest in keeping track of time, so when he was asked how long he had been in the woods by himself, he replied, since the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown, which took place in 1986. As investigators later found out, he was 20 years old when he decided to become a hermit, just a couple of years after high school, although he never gave the authorities a real reason why he decided to disappear. In all his years of isolation, he went
he spent like 40 years, or maybe not 40, but he definitely spent like, no, that, I don't know, he looks a little older. He's balding pretty bad. I don't know, they might have just said it and I'm just stupid, but like, he has to be at least like 40. There's just no way. Dude, imagine not knowing what year it is. Imagine just being like, oh yeah, since Chernobyl, and they're like, well, you've been out here for like 25 years, bro. Just surviving on nothing, basically. That's insane.
Extreme lengths to preserve his privacy.
Still a chill guy, though.
He never lit fires, only moved at night, and hadn't had any kind of communication with the rest of society for more than half of his life. He'd never driven a car, sent an email, or even known what the internet was until his arrest.
He didn't know what the internet was? Dude, he was a true hermit. He was just out there just slinging it. Damn. That's cool. Pretty cool. But also it's like weird because it's like, this is like the type of person that would like have a plane crash into their house and they think that there's like a nuclear war. So they go hide in their basement for like 40 years. Oh, there was a movie about that with Brendan Fraser. I can't remember what that movie was, but it was freaking awesome. And I don't remember that much of it, but I remember it was awesome when I was a kid. But yeah.
Interestingly, as the cops dug deeper and deeper into his story, they realized that his only real possessions were his glasses, which he had been wearing for 30 years and could even be seen in his Lawrence High School yearbook picture from 1980.
Dude, that is impressive. Having the same pair of glasses for 30 years. So he was out there for 30 years? He was out in the woods longer than I've been alive. That's insane, dude. Dang, what a chill guy. But also, he kept the same pair of glasses for 30 years and they didn't break a single time. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with this guy. If he can keep a pair of glasses for 30 years in the woods and not crack them or break them, that's impressive. That's a chill guy right there.
4. Everything else down to his underwear and jacket had been stolen. After the investigation, Knight was sentenced to 7 months in prison, after which he once again disappeared. According to the cops, he's now living a quiet, peaceful life in rural Maine.
Hey, he shaved up, he got some new glasses. He ain't looking too shabby, all right? That right there, that looks like a freaking professor. All right, you can definitely see that guy at your college being like, "Oh yes, this is I could definitely see him like doing English or math." That's the vibe I'm getting. English or math tutor or a professional. So, not a bad looking guy when he shaved it all up, you know. Still balding pretty good. I would probably just yoink all that off, you know, like I did. But, you know, chill looking guy. But also the 7 months in jail, those were probably like the best 7 months of his life because he actually like had somewhere to sleep and he wasn't freezing to death and he could actually like he had like buddies. I don't know. I feel like if you're homeless and you have nowhere to go, jail is probably like one of your best options because at least you have a bed, you have heat, like a bed, shelter, and food every day for however long, you know. So.
Purple Aki. Throughout the late 1980s and 90s, rumors of a massive bodybuilder called Purple Aki began to surface in the northwest of England.
What?
According to the allegations, Purple Aki would supposedly walk the streets of Liverpool hunting down young muscular men and rugby players and oddly ask them if he would let them feel their muscles.
What? That statement right there is crazy. He would just walk around being like, "Hey, can I grab your muscles?" That is so funny. That is hilarious.
Implied he would allegedly squeeze their muscles for much longer than was considered socially acceptable and would then ask them to perform squats so he could feel their quad muscles. Some teenagers reported that Purple Aki even went as far as to ask them to pose for him and often offered exercise and nutrition advice for those who gave him the time. Because the rumors were so incredibly ridiculous, nobody really took them too seriously at first, and eventually the story of Purple Aki turned into an urban legend with crazy details.
What is this camera guy doing? He's zooming in and out like a million times. Bro, just look at him. What are you doing?
To the tale, including one where Purple Aki would allegedly swallow teenagers whole if they let him feel their muscles.
Excuse me? Did I just hear that right?
One where Purple Aki would allegedly swallow teenagers whole if they let him feel their muscles.
I heard it right. He would swallow teenagers whole if he felt their muscles. And this video is called Urban Legends That Turned Out to Be True. Well, with those yellow eyes, he possibly could have swallowed some teens whole. Yeah, that is astonishingly strange.
But as time went on, it became clear that Purple Aki wasn't just a made-up character created by bored teenagers looking to get some laugh from their friends, but a real person named Akinwul Arobic. Aki was often seen traveling across England by train carrying a plastic bag and asking young men if he could feel their muscles. Naturally, this made a lot of people uncomfortable, and it wasn't uncommon for Aki's face to be featured in local news.
6'5". Dang, so he's 2 inches taller than me, and he's just walking around being like, "Hey, can I touch your muscles, little Jimmy, little 14-year-old Jimmy? Can I touch your muscles? I'm gonna swallow you whole." Bro, that's a big guy. Ow. I don't know if I would want a big guy like that to just walk up on me if I was like 16, being like, hey, can I touch your muscles? Can you pose for me? That would be really weird and awkward. Yeah.
Newspapers after several encounters with the law. Most of the accusations against him were related to his creepy behavior around teenage boys, but around 1986, the story of Purple
That's
Key
weird.
took a really dark turn.
He's just standing there
Early that year,
menacingly.
16-year-old Gary Keller was walking home from school when he ran into Purple Aki, who immediately asked to feel his muscles. Freaked out by the weird request, Gary said no and ran away. Later that same year, Aki followed Gary to a local outdoor swimming pool, and when the teenager noticed, he ran to New Brighton train station and jumped onto the railroad tracks to get away from Aki. Sadly, the story ended in tragedy, as Gary was accidentally electrocuted by one of the rails. Considering
What? This kid that was creeped out by this dude ran away and they got electrocuted on a railroad? I've heard of that before, but only when they freaking pee on the third rail or something like that. That's insane! He got electrocuted trying to run away from this creepy guy. Whoa, that's weird.
the whole thing happened because Gary was being chased, Purple Aki was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, charged with harassing 14 different teenage boys, and sentenced to 2.5 years
14?
in prison. In 1988, Aki filed an appeal and complained that the only reason he had been convicted was because he was black. Ultimately, the judges
Of course.
agreed there wasn't enough evidence to prove Aki had been directly responsible for Gary's death, and believe it or not,
Are you serious? There is so much evidence of... Do you not see all these videos of people recording him being really creepy and weird around freaking teenagers and rugby players? Like, it's on the paper, bro. There's your evidence.
he was freed and awarded £35,000 in compensation.
What?
Between 1988 and 2006, Aki went in and out of jail for failing to resist his compulsion to touch, feel, and measure other people's muscles. And in 2003, he was arrested for an additional 15 charges of harassment and witness intimidation, for which he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Just like any other predator, he was also forbidden from waiting outside schools in the area.
You would wait outside of schools? Dude, put this guy in a jail cell. That's insane. What the fuck? Okay, like, I don't care if you for some reason, I don't care if you for some reason like muscular people, but like, just don't touch teenagers. Don't look at teenagers like that. It's weird. Rugby players, whatever, they kind of sign that deal when they are like, yeah, I'm going to become a rugby player. They kind of go, okay, you're probably going to be stalked. And it's like, all right, fine, whatever. That's more okay. But like teenagers, bro, and touching every single person and measuring them and posing, that's just weird. You got to chill out, all right? Be like the other guy, just chill.
Months later, he was jailed for 15 months for getting up to his same antics. Upon his release, he was once again arrested a few weeks later in 2010 and then again in 2015. After his latest release, he reportedly moved to Leeds, where rumors started cropping up that he had passed away during the pandemic. However, those rumors were put to rest when videos started surfacing in 2023 of Aki walking the streets of Leeds asking random dudes to, you guessed it, feel their muscles. As of today, Purple Aki is alive and well, and will probably continue in his same behavior with or without permission for many years to come.
Weird.
Leiloyen. According to a Swiss urban legend, people have allegedly been running into a mysterious human-like figure in the Fribourg forest in the western part of the country near the town of
Human-like figure in the woods. I'm out. If I see anything that is human-like, not just human, I'm sprinting out of there as quick as I can. I don't care. Forests are weird, dude. Like, somebody could literally be hiding in the forest and you just, like, you won't notice. I've had this happen before. Well, not like in a weird, like, oh, somebody's been stalking me, but like just like hanging out with friends. Like, we'll just be going out playing like hide and seek or whatever when we were kids, obviously. And it was like you would be walking down the forest and somebody would be hiding right there and you wouldn't know. Like, unless you were looking right at it, you just wouldn't notice. And it was so weird. It was so creepy. Yeah. But human-like? Like human? No, it's either human or not human. Not human-like. Okay, that's weird. I'm out.
malls since the early 2000s. Based on the dozens of allegations that surfaced over the years, the figure has been described as being around 6 feet tall and always wearing a vintage-looking gas mask covering his entire face, a boiler.
What is this guy from freaking World War One? What are you doing wearing a gas mask in the middle of the forest? And he's 6 foot. 6 foot is tall. Okay, the average person is like 5'8", so 6 feet is tall, especially walking in the woods. And if they're human-like, then it's even weirder. Oh my god, this is just so weird. I don't understand people. Like, I've never once had an impulse in my entire life where I was like, you know what? I think I want to walk in the woods with a gas mask on. I think that's something I want to do. Yeah. I think my life's purpose is to walk around in the woods with a gas mask on while people describe me as human-like. Weird.
Suit and a cloak. Most people who supposedly ran into the figure reported he or she was completely harmless, but this didn't make the encounters any less terrifying,
Still
and it wasn't
weird.
uncommon for people to report the figure to the police when their children reported feeling scared. As expected, it didn't take local residents long to start adding their own crazy twist to the story, with some claiming that the creature was the ghost of a mentally unstable soldier, while other popular theories assured it was an alien. For a while, the story was classified as an urban legend.
Okay, people who are saying that's an alien, you're dumb. Why would an alien come down here from God who knows where, and he's just like, yeah, let me put a gas mask on, look like a human, and just walk around the woods? Like, that's dumb. Like, the ghost of a soldier makes more sense than if it was an alien. Are you dumb?
And the mysterious humanoid was given the name Lei Loyan, also known as the Ghost or the Hermit of Malls. Throughout the early 2000s, Lei Loyan was mostly the subject of local oral legend because there was no real evidence to support its existence. But in 2013, the story gained international attention when the Swiss/French newspaper Le Matin published the first ever photograph of Lei Loyan, which was sent in by a hiker. After the
What the fuck? So he's wearing that and he's just walking around with a gas mask? Okay, that is... I thought it was just some guy like wearing like a t-shirt and like jeans and he just has a gas mask on. That's what I was envisioning. That is way scarier. If I saw that in the woods, I would be like, I'm about to die. Are you death? Are you here to consume my soul? And he just walks away. I'm like, oh my god.
photograph was published, there was no turning back, as people from all over the country started to make trips to the woods outside malls for a chance to catch a glimpse of Lei Loyan. The last...
Dude, humans are the dumbest. Like, I swear, you watch horror movies, right? And there's always that one person that does stuff so stupid and you're watching it and you're like, no, don't go in the basement. Don't do that. But humans do that in real life all the time. What is wrong with us? I don't get it. We see danger and we're supposed to be like, go this way. If danger's that way, go this way. But for some reason, a lot of humans are like, oh, there's danger that way. Let me just go that way. Let me just check it out. I just want to see if it's real. If it's real, you're dead. If it's not real, you're still like dumb for doing that. That way you have a 100% chance of not dying. That way you have at least a 50% chance of dying. I am not willing to risk that. I'm going that way every single time. I am not that curious. I am not that curious to see a guy in a gas mask in a full soldier's outfit in the middle of the woods. I am not interested in that. Okay. Calm down, Halen. It's okay. It's fine. Just people are dumb.
The known sighting of Lei Loyan took place in June 2013 when a local woman named Marianne Desclous saw the figure clutching a bunch of flowers as she was walking outside. Later that year, Lei Loyan's clothes were found in the middle of the woods along with a wooden note titled The Death Certificate and Will of the Ghost des Malls. In the letter, Lei Loyan accused the media of having murdered a harmless being by revealing its existence and turning him into a circus freak. The letter also mentioned that due to the unwanted attention, Lei Loyan had to abandon its daily walks, which were referred to as happiness therapy in the letter. After the cryptic note was published in the newspaper, many people concluded that Lei Loyan had taken its own life, although this has never been confirmed. As of 2024, nobody has ever seen Lei Loyan's true face, and many people have theorized that the figure was possibly a woman with a facial disfiguration who didn't want people to see her, which is supposedly why she wore the gas mask. But this line of reasoning will probably remain unconfirmed forever.
Okay, I can kind of understand that. Like, if for some reason you have something wrong with your face, which is fine, but if for some reason you do have something wrong with your face, I guess I could see putting on a gas mask and just like totally covering yourself and then going for walks just to like have therapy. I could see that, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I feel like if I'm in the middle of the woods, I would rather see somebody wear like a bag over their head or something instead of a gas mask from like World War One. That's just a little weird. But if that's true, that kind of sucks. Because based off that note that they just described, it seemed like they just wanted to go for walks and stuff like that, and they probably enjoyed hearing like, "Oh yeah, I'm a little urban legend," blah blah blah. But then it got national news, and they were like, "Oh, well now it's just ruined," and then they just give it up, you know. But but it would be funny if they just left it in the middle of the woods and then nobody ever found it. That'd be kind of funny, but.
The Bunny Man. In the early 70s, dozens of locals started reporting that a man dressed up as a bunny had started haunting the residential neighborhoods around DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Although dressing up as a bunny in itself seems pretty harmless, what made the encounters a little scarier was that the guy would allegedly threaten children on the street with an axe and frequently vandalize people's property for no apparent reason. Even though sightings of the so-called Bunny Man were pretty rare, they seemed to follow a pattern, as the man usually appeared in secluded locations where there weren't a lot of witnesses. The story itself has a lot of elements of a typical urban legend and is kind of hard to believe, but through my research I found that it's all loosely based on a true story. In 1970, a couple was parked in a driveway close to a bridge on Colchester Road in Fairfax County when suddenly a random guy appeared out of nowhere, yelled at them for allegedly trespassing, and threw a hatchet at their car. Terrified, the couple left the area immediately before they had a chance to get a good look at the guy. As they reported the incident to the police, they mentioned the guy had been dressed in light-colored clothing and may or may not have been wearing something white on his head. Although the couple never mentioned anything about a bunny in their statement, as soon as the story hit the news, people started claiming that the hatchet thrower had been wearing bunny ears. Pretty soon, rumors of a man in a bunny suit threatening kids in the woods with a hatchet started surfacing all over the DMV area, and as the years went by, the stories got wilder and harder to believe. Over time, the legend of the Bunny Man has become pretty mainstream, with the bridge on Colchester Road even being renamed as Bunny Man Bridge. As of the uploading of this video, the legend has now been standardized and goes something like this. In 1904, there was allegedly an asylum close to the bridge on Colchester Road. As soon as it was built, a bunch of Fairfax County residents started complaining about the idea of having an asylum full of mental patients so close to their homes, so the authorities supposedly put all the patients in a bus and transferred them to a nearby prison. But on the way to the prison, the bus crashed and all the patients escaped. As the story goes, a few hours later the cops had successfully located—
Oh my gosh, you really have to mow right now, my guy. Okay. OBS isn't picking it up, so I'm assuming that you guys cannot hear. Alright, whatever. But it's fucking loud. I'm surprised it isn't picking it up. Whatever. Okay, anyways.
and brought back all the patients except for one guy by the name of Douglas Griffin. This is where the legend gets a little weird. Allegedly, the fugitive patient hid in the woods from the authorities for weeks. As the days went by and the cops did everything to find him, rabbit corpses started to appear in the middle of the woods, which led everyone to believe Douglas was eating bunnies to stay alive. Then, one Halloween night, a group of kids were hanging out near the bridge on Colchester Road when they suddenly saw a blue orb flashing in midair. A second later, they were all strung up like bunnies hanging from the bridge.
What?
As the legend goes, if you go to Bunny Man Bridge on Halloween night at midnight, the same thing will happen to you. Obviously, none of this is true, but it just goes to show how much of an impact the story of the Bunny Man has had on mainstream Virginia, DC, and Maryland culture. Nowadays, there's even Bunny Man t-shirts, a Bunny Man horror movie franchise, Bunny Man beer, and everything in between.
Okay, see,
Needless to say, the area
I was thinking about that. I was like, isn't there like a Bunny Man movie or something like that? I was like, this does sound familiar, but I don't know. but I guess it's true.
Railroad overpass near Fairfax Station is now a major attraction for both tourists and locals alike, and will probably remain that way for many years.
Weird. Okay, cool. That was epic. Thank you, Chilling Scares. That was cool.